Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum. Every story begins somewhere, and this one takes us back to the days when the world was covered in darkness, before the light of Islam rose upon the earth. Welcome to another journey through history.
Abdul Muttalib, whose real name was Shayba ibn Hashim, was born in Medina. His father, Hashim ibn Abd Manaf, was a noble chief of the Quraysh tribe and a respected merchant. During one of his trade journeys to Gaza, Hashim passed away, leaving behind his young son in the care of his mother, Salma bint Amr, who belonged to the Banu Najjar clan in Medina. Shayba grew up among his maternal relatives in a calm and noble environment, far from the politics and leadership of Makkah. However, news of this boy reached his uncle, Al-Muttalib, who realized that Shayba was the rightful heir to Hashim's legacy in Makkah. Al-Muttalib traveled to Medina to bring his nephew home. At first, Salma refused to send her son, fearing he might be reduced to the status of a servant or neglected in Makkah. But Al-Muttalib, with wisdom, assurance, and care, convinced her that he would treat the boy with honor and raise him in his father's noble footsteps. When Al-Muttalib returned to Makkah with Shayba, the people assumed the boy was a slave due to his simple clothing and appearance. They began calling him Abdul Muttalib, the slave of Al-Muttalib, a title that stuck with him despite its inaccuracy. But soon, Shayba's nobility and leadership qualities began to shine. The sacred well of Zamzam, once discovered by Hajar, the mother of Prophet Ismail, had been lost for centuries after the Jurham tribe buried it when they were driven out of Makkah. Its location became unknown. One day, Abdul Muttalib had a series of vivid dreams instructing him to dig at a specific place near the Kaaba. The dream described strange signs: blood, dung, a crow, and ants. When these signs matched the area between Safa and Marwa, he was convinced and began digging with only his son Haris to help. The Quraysh leaders opposed him. "This is a sacred public place. You cannot dig here." But Abdul Muttalib persisted, saying, "I have been commanded in a dream. Allah will support me." After much effort, water gushed out. Zamzam was rediscovered. The people wanted to share control over the well, but Abdul Muttalib refused. To resolve the dispute, they traveled to a wise woman, possibly in Syria. But en route, they ran out of water and nearly perished. Abdul Muttalib prayed to Allah for help, and water was found miraculously in their own camp. The others recognized this as a sign and agreed that Abdul Muttalib alone should control Zamzam. Grateful to Allah, Abdul Muttalib made a vow: "If Allah grants me 10 sons, I will sacrifice one for his sake."
In Yemen, the Abyssinian, Ethiopian, Governor Abraha al-Ashram built a grand cathedral in Sana'a, intending to divert Arab pilgrimage away from the Kaaba. But the Arabs ignored it, and someone defiled the church in protest. Enraged, Abraham marched towards Mecca with a large army and war elephants, determined to demolish the Kaaba. As he approached Mecca, he seized the livestock of the Quraysh, including 200 camels belonging to Abdul Muttalib. When Abdul Muttalib entered Abraha's tent, Abraha was impressed by his dignity and offered him respect. But Abdul Muttalib surprised him by only requesting his camels back. Abraha mocked, "You ask for camels, but ignore your sacred house which I have come to destroy." Abdul Muttalib calmly replied, "I am the owner of the camels. The Kaaba has a Lord who will protect it." And Allah did just that. As Abraha's army advanced, the elephants refused to move toward the Kaaba. Then, flocks of birds, ababil, appeared from the skies, each carrying small stones from hell. They dropped them on the army, which was destroyed completely. This event is mentioned in the Quran, Surah Al-Fil, and marked the year of the Prophet's birth, 570 AD. Years later, Abdul Muttalib was blessed with 10 sons. Remembering his vow, he decided to fulfill it. He cast lots among his sons, and the name that emerged was none other than his beloved son Abdullah, the father of the Prophet. Although heartbroken, Abdul Muttalib prepared to carry out the vow. The Quraysh intervened and pleaded with him not to do this. They consulted a wise soothsayer woman who suggested an alternative. Cast lots between Abdullah and 10 camels. If it falls on Abdullah, add 10 more camels and draw again, until the lot falls on the camels. They continued this process, 10, 20, 30, until the lot finally fell on 100 camels. Only then did Abdul Muttalib sacrifice the camels and spare his son. This set the precedent in Islamic law. 100 camels became the blood money, diya for a life. Shortly after marrying Amina, Abdullah, the Prophet's father, passed away during a journey to Syria. The Prophet was born an orphan. Abdul Muttalib took full responsibility for the child and loved him dearly. He would seat the young boy next to him beside the Kaaba, despite the protest of elders. He used to say, "This child will have a great destiny." When the Prophet was 8 years old, Abdul Muttalib fell ill and passed away. Sensing his end, he entrusted the Prophet to his son Abu Talib, who cared for him lovingly for the rest of his life.
Alhamdulillah, our journey ends here for today. But history is full of lessons waiting to be discovered and stories waiting to be told. If this story touched your heart, remember to like, share, and subscribe so we can keep uncovering the legacy of Islam together. Take care and Allah Hafiz.